like and subscribe. Follow Alifah Jaya Production. Thank you.
Chapter 2, The Crimson Cauldron's Choice. The rain continued to fall as Ashen stood alone in the wilderness, his body trembling not from cold, but from the overwhelming power coursing through his veins. The Crimson Forge had merged with his very being, settling deep within his dungeon like a furnace waiting to be ignited. Yet despite the cauldron's presence, Ashen's body remained devastated. The poison had done its work thoroughly. His meridians were shattered, his spiritual roots damaged beyond conventional repair. Any other cultivator would be finished, condemned to live as a mortal for the rest of their days. But Ashen was no longer any other cultivator. "Your confusion is natural," the feminine voice echoed in his mind, gentler now than during their first meeting. "Allow me to properly introduce myself. I am Ember, the spirit guardian of the Crimson Forge Cauldron. For 3,000 years, I have waited within this ancient artifact, searching for a soul worthy of wielding its power." Ashen's eyes widened. 3,000 years? That predated even the founding of the Azure Sky Continent's oldest sex. "Why me?" Ashen asked aloud, his voice hoarse. "I'm nothing now. Just a crippled cultivator with enemies I can't defeat." "You misunderstand," Ember replied, and Ashen could almost hear amusement in her tone. "You are not crippled. You are a blank canvas. The poison destroyed your conventional cultivation, yes, but conventional cultivation is weak, limited, bound by the mediocre techniques of this declining era." Ashen felt a surge of indignation. The cultivation arts of Azure Peak City might not be the strongest in the world, but calling them mediocre seemed excessive. "I can sense your thoughts," Ember continued. "And I tell you this as fact, not opinion. The blazing sun technique you practiced, the one your Lin clan considers their greatest treasure? It is garbage. A pale imitation of true cultivation methods, degraded over generations until only the shell remains." "Then what do you propose?" Ashen asked, too exhausted to argue. "If everything I learned is worthless, what do I cultivate now?" "The primal manifestation body technique," Ember said, and suddenly Ashen's mind flooded with information. Images, instructions, warnings all flowing into his consciousness like water into an empty vessel. An ancient method from the primordial era, before sex and kingdoms divided the cultivation world. This technique does not simply gather spiritual energy. It transforms the body itself into a divine furnace, capable of refining anything: energy, treasures, even the laws of heaven and earth. Ashen's head spun from the influx of knowledge. The technique was vastly more complex than anything he had encountered. Where the blazing sun technique had 12 basic forms and 3 advanced variations, the primal manifestation body technique contained 99 foundational stages, each more intricate than the last. "This is impossible," Ashen whispered. "No one could master this. The spiritual energy requirements alone would bankrupt a kingdom." "For ordinary cultivators, yes," Ember agreed. "But you possess the Crimson Forge. The cauldron's primary function is transformation. Lesser herbs become supreme medicines. Common materials become legendary treasures. Trash becomes immortal." The weight of those words settled on Ashen's shoulders. This wasn't just a second chance. This was an entirely different path, one that promised power beyond anything he had imagined in his previous life as a prodigy. "What's the catch?" Ashen asked suspiciously. "Power like this always has a price." "Wise," Ember said approvingly. "Yes, there is a price. The primal manifestation body technique requires resources far beyond normal cultivation. Your body will become a bottomless pit, consuming energy and materials at a rate that would horrify ordinary cultivators. You will need 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times more resources than your peers to advance. So I'll be poor forever, Ashen said bitterly. Or, Ember countered, you will become rich beyond measure. The Crimson Forge grants you abilities ordinary cultivators lack. Alchemy, you can refine pills of perfect purity. Talisman crafting, you can inscribe formations of devastating power. Weapon forging, you can create artifacts that Sex would wage war to possess. The resources you need, you will create yourself. Ashen's mind raced. He had studied basic alchemy and talisman theory, as all noble clan children did, but he had never excelled at them. His talent lay in combat and cultivation, not crafting. Your previous limitations no longer apply, Ember said, reading his thoughts. The Crimson Forge enhances all aspects of creation. What once required years of study, you will grasp in days. What masters could not achieve in their lifetimes, you will accomplish before your 20th birthday. My 20th birthday is in 4 months, Ashen pointed out. Then we should begin immediately. Before Ashen could respond, a deep growl rumbled through the forest. His body tensed instinctively, though he knew he had no power to fight. 30 meters away, yellow eyes gleamed in the darkness between the trees. A shadow fang wolf emerged from the undergrowth, its black fur bristling with spiritual energy. Even in his weakened state, Ashen could sense the beast's power peak body refinement realm, equivalent to what he himself had been just hours ago. The wolf snarled, saliva dripping from fangs as long as daggers. It had caught the scent of blood, Ashen's blood, still seeping from wounds where the poison had burst through his skin. Ember, Ashen said quietly, not taking his eyes off the predator. I don't suppose the Crimson Forge comes with instant combat abilities. Unfortunately, no. However, it does provide solutions. The wolf lunged, crossing the distance in a blur of shadow and fury. Ashen tried to dodge, but his body was too slow, too damaged. The beast's claws raked across his chest, tearing through his ruined wedding robes and drawing fresh blood. Ashen crashed into a tree, gasping in pain. The wolf circled, preparing for another strike, this time aimed at his throat. Place your hand on the ground, Ember commanded urgently. Channel what little spiritual energy remains in your body through the Crimson Forge and into the earth. Ashen didn't question. He slammed his palm against the muddy ground, and the Crimson Forge within his dantian flared to life. Crimson light erupted from his hand, spreading across the earth in intricate patterns of formation, though Ashen had no idea how he was creating it. The Shadow Fang Wolf leaped for the killing blow. The formation activated. Chains of crimson energy erupted from the ground, wrapping around the wolf's legs, neck, and torso. The beast howled in fury, thrashing against the bindings, but the chains held firm. More than held, they began to drain the wolf's spiritual energy, feeding it directly into Ashen. What? What is this? Ashen gasped as foreign energy flooded into his body. The Crimson Devouring Formation, Ember explained. One of the Cauldron's most basic applications. It consumes the spiritual energy of trapped enemies and converts it into pure cultivation essence. This wolf has accumulated 10 years of beast core energy. You will take it all. The wolf's struggles weakened as the formation drained it dry. Within minutes, the once powerful beast collapsed, reduced to nothing more than an ordinary animal, its fur now dull grey instead of shadow black. Ashen, meanwhile, felt strength returning to his limbs. The stolen energy wasn't enough to restore his cultivation, but it stabilized his body, sealed his wounds, and gave him enough power to stand without trembling. Good, Ember said with satisfaction. Your first lesson in the new path: take everything you need from those who would harm you. Mercy is for the strong. You are not yet strong. Ashen looked at the wolf, now whimpering pitifully on the ground. A day ago, he might have felt compassion. Now, he felt nothing but cold pragmatism. This beast had tried to kill him. He had taken its power. That was the way of the cultivation world. What do I do with it now? Ashen asked. The beast core remains intact within its body. Extract it. We can use it as material for your first pill refinement. Ashen approached the weakened wolf. With a swift motion, he broke its neck. A mercy, perhaps, or simply efficiency. Using a sharp stone, he cut into the beast's chest and removed a small, grey sphere about the size of a marble. The beast core pulsed with residual spiritual energy. Well done. Now, sit and enter meditation. I will guide you through your first cultivation session with the primal manifestation body technique. Ashen found a relatively dry spot beneath a large oak tree and sat cross-legged, the beast core clutched in his right hand. He closed his eyes and turned his focus inward, toward his dantian where the Crimson Forge resided. The first stage of the primal manifestation body technique is called ignition of the mortal furnace. You must awaken the divine fire within your body, the fundamental force that will power all future transformations. Most cultivators take months to complete this stage. You will complete it tonight. How is that possible? Ashen asked. Because I will help you cheat. The Crimson Forge flared to life within his dantian, and Ashen felt his consciousness being pulled inward, into the cauldron itself. Suddenly, he was no longer sitting in a forest, he was standing within a vast space of swirling crimson flames. Welcome, Ember's voice echoed around him, to the inner world of the Crimson Forge. Ashen spun around in amazement. The space seemed infinite, filled with floating islands of stone suspended in an ocean of fire. At the center stood a massive furnace, easily 100 meters tall, covered in the same shifting runes as the cauldron's exterior. And standing before the furnace was a woman. She appeared to be in her mid-20s, with long crimson hair that flowed like living flames and golden eyes that held the weight of millennia. She wore robes of black and red, and despite her youthful appearance, Ashen could sense the ancient power emanating from her. You're Ember? Ashen asked, stunned. She smiled. In a manner of speaking. I am the manifestation of the cauldron's spirit. This inner world exists within your dantian now, accessible only to you. Here, time flows differently. 10 days inside equals 1 day outside. This is where you will train, refine pills, forge weapons, and transform materials. Ashen's mind reeled at the implications. A time dilation space within his own body? Such treasures existed only in legends, artifacts that ancient emperors would wage continent-spanning wars to possess. Why me? Ashen asked again, unable to comprehend his fortune. I'm nobody. A failed prodigy from a third-rate clan in a backwater city. Ember's expression grew serious. You are correct that talent alone did not draw me to you. Millions possess talent. What you possess is something far rarer: unbending will. When the poison destroyed your cultivation, when your lover betrayed you, when death itself reached for you in that ceremony, I was watching. I have witnessed countless souls in similar situations. Do you know what most do? Ashen shook his head. They break. They surrender. They accept their fate as victims and fade into obscurity, cursing the world for their misfortune. Ember stepped closer, her golden eyes boring into his. But you? Even at your lowest moment, dying in the mud, you refused to surrender. Your rage burned pure and true. Your desire for vengeance gave you purpose. Your pride demanded that you rise again, no matter the cost. She placed a hand on his shoulder. That is why I chose you, Ashen Veil. Not because you were the strongest, but because you refused to stay fallen. Ashen felt something stir in his chest, not quite gratitude, not quite pride, but a mixture of both. For the first time since the betrayal, he felt truly seen, truly understood. "Then I won't waste your choice," Ashen said firmly. "Teach me. Make me strong enough to burn down everyone who wronged me." Ember smiled, fierce and approving. "Oh, we will do far more than that. We will forge you into something this world has never seen. Now, let us begin your first true cultivation." She gestured, and the beast core Ashen had been holding in the physical world appeared floating before them in the inner space. With a wave of her hand, the massive furnace opened, revealing flames of impossible intensity. "The primal manifestation body technique does not simply absorb energy," Ember explained. "It refines everything, breaking down materials to their fundamental essence and reconstructing them as part of your body. This beast core contains 10 years of accumulated spiritual energy. An ordinary cultivator at body refinement realm would need months to safely absorb even a fraction of it." She snapped her fingers, and the beast core flew into the furnace. The flames consumed it instantly, and Ashen watched in amazement as the core dissolved into pure, liquid spiritual essence. "You will absorb all of it in 1 hour," Ember declared. "The Crimson Forge will handle the refinement. Your job is to guide the energy through your shattered meridians, using the pain to reconstruct them stronger than before. This will hurt more than anything you have ever experienced." "I don't care," Ashen said without hesitation. "I've already experienced the worst pain possible. Everything else is just practice." Ember's smile widened. "Excellent answer. Then let us forge the first layer of your new foundation. Remember, Ashen pain is just weakness being burned away." The refined spiritual essence shot out of the furnace like a geyser of liquid fire, striking Ashen's chest and pouring into his body. Immediately, agonizing pain exploded through every nerve. The energy burned through his damaged meridians like acid through paper, destroying what little remained of his old cultivation pathways. Ashen screamed, but he did not flinch. He followed Ember's guidance, directing the energy according to the patterns shown in the primal manifestation body technique. Where the old meridians had been, new ones began to form wider, stronger, glowing with crimson light. The process was excruciating. Every second felt like an eternity. Sweat poured down Ashen's face, mixing with tears of pain he refused to acknowledge. His body convulsed, his muscles spasmed, his bones creaked under the pressure of the transforming energy. But he did not stop. He thought of Seraphina's cold eyes. The pain intensified, and he pushed through it. He thought of Marcus's mocking smile. The energy threatened to tear him apart, and he forced it into submission. He thought of the Lin clan elders who had abandoned him. His body felt like it was being torn apart and rebuilt simultaneously, and he endured. And through it all, Ember stood beside him, her voice steady and encouraging. "Good. Excellent. Do not fight the pain, embrace it. Let it fuel your transformation. This is the way of the Crimson Forge. We do not heal wounds. We burn them away and forge something stronger in their place." Time lost meaning in the inner world. Minutes became hours, became an eternity of suffering and growth. The beast core's energy filled Ashen's new meridians, solidifying his foundation in ways that conventional cultivation never could. Finally, after what felt like years but had been only 1 hour, the process completed. Ashen collapsed to his knees, gasping for breath. But when he looked up, he saw that his body within the inner world now glowed with faint crimson light. His meridians, previously shattered beyond repair, were now pristine, and they were wider, more efficient than they had ever been. "Congratulations," Ember said, genuine pride in her voice. "You have completed the first stage of the primal manifestation body technique. You have stepped onto the true path of cultivation. Ashen pushed himself to his feet, testing his new power. Even in this mental space, he could feel the difference. Where before his spiritual energy had flowed like a stream, it now rushed like a river. "What realm am I now?" he asked. "Body refinement realm, first layer," Ember answered. "But do not judge yourself by conventional standards. Your first layer contains more power than most cultivators' fifth layer. And this is only the beginning." Ashen's consciousness returned to his physical body. He opened his eyes to find that dawn had broken, golden sunlight filtering through the trees. The rain had stopped, and the forest was alive with morning birdsong. He stood, and immediately noticed the difference. His body felt lighter, stronger, more responsive. The wounds from the Shadow Fang Wolf had completely healed, not even leaving scars. His ruined wedding robes hung in tatters, but beneath them, his skin glowed with health. Ashen clenched his fist, feeling power flow through muscles that had been destroyed just hours ago. He was weak by the standards of his former self, but he was no longer powerless. "This is just the first step," Ashen said aloud, his voice carrying determination that could move mountains. "Seraphina. Marcus. Everyone who betrayed me. Watch closely from your comfortable lives. Because I'm coming back." He turned toward Azure Peak City in the distance, where smoke from morning cooking fires rose into the sky. "And when I return, I won't be the naive prodigy you discarded. I'll be something far more dangerous." Ashen's eyes glowed with crimson light, reflecting the power of the Crimson Forge within him. "I'll be your nightmare." End of Chapter 2. Next chapter preview: Ashen's return to Azure Peak City begins, but not as a triumphant hero. Moving in shadows, he must rebuild his power while avoiding enemies who believe him dead. His first target: recovering resources. His first obstacle: the very clan that abandoned him.